Michigan and Jim Harbaugh file responses to the NCAA notice of allegations. This is from Angelique Changelis. We bring this up for a couple of different reasons, but let's go through the story first because I think a lot of people will find this interesting. The lawyers representing the University of Michigan and lawyer Tom Mars, who represents former Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh, that's important. File that away. Remember that. Have met the deadlines for filing separate responses on behalf of their clients after receiving a notice of allegations last December. So the NCAA now has 60 days to respond to Michigan, and that puts us in mid-late May, is what I'm guessing. The fact that Jim Harbaugh's lawyer is involved shows that Harbaugh did not escape any potential punishments coming from the NCAA potential sanctions. That's still a possibility. And then, in fact, Ward Manuel is quoted later in the article as saying Harbaugh leaving does not impact the investigation. And because Harbaugh's lawyer is involved, Harbaugh could still face sanctions if there are any.
Okay.
What
are they going to do? You can't coach college football anymore.
Well, hold on. Oh. The NCAA sent a draft of the NOA on January 5th. NOA is Notice of Allegations on January 5th, 2023, detailing 4 alleged Level 2 violations, including meeting with recruits during a COOF recruiting dead period. Harbaugh faces a Level 1 allegation, the NCAA's most severe, for allegedly lying to and misleading investigators. Michigan agreed to the Level 2 violations, but Harbaugh never agreed to the Level 1. But somewhere in there is why he self-suspended the first 3 games of last season.
I still think he did that just to get it over with. I think that's they were going to say, like, okay, fine, we'll suspend him for 3 games next season. Boom. Are you happy? And apparently not.
Yeah. The alleged illegal scouting, sign stealing is not part of this. That one is still coming.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot going on right now.
Yeah.
Moose, I'm going to throw this on here real quick. So Moose says there's a Level 1 for that. Yeah, apparently there is.
A friendly reminder that Tennessee got 18 Level 1 violations, and their punishment was a slap on the wrist. I think it was literally like a fine.
Yeah, it wasn't much, that's for sure. So Matt Miller, okay. This tweet, the reason I think this tweet ties in with this, Matt Miller said Michigan expects over 150 NFL personnel for Pro Day today. That's the biggest number I've heard for a Pro Day. This goes to, did the sign stealing that Michigan may have done, well, I guess all teams steal signs, the potential illegal sign stealing that may have happened, did that make Michigan a paper champion? As in, was Michigan only good this year because they potentially had the signs from the other teams, or were they good this year because Jim Harbaugh built a championship level team? I maintained through the season when the allegations came out, I maintained that you cannot sustain that kind of dominating success through sign stealing.
Especially if everyone's doing it.
Right. And in fact, what this shows me here with this Matt Miller tweet is that the NFL knows that too. Michigan legitimately beat every other team they played, fair and square. The NFL knows it, and that's why there were 150 NFL personnel at Pro Day watching Michigan.
Yeah. How in the world would sign stealing give this much of an advantage?
Right.
At the end of the day, it's like Deion Sanders said, you still have to run the plays. You still have to play the game. So just because you know the signs can be changed on a week-to-week basis. I understand that's apparently a very laborious activity for most college football programs, but they can be changed. So I don't understand how anyone thinks that just sign stealing. Now, okay, if they had like practice footage, which there's no allegations of that, if they had practice footage, then I could see that. There are allegations against Ohio State for that, and they still couldn't beat Michigan. So what does that say about Ryan Day? Whatever.
Mhm.
Anyway, either way, sign stealing is not illegal.
Right.
Sign stealing is not illegal. So even if there was an unfair advantage given to Michigan, the fact that other teams are not doing it would be baffling. But everyone's doing it. Why?
Mhm.
Because it's not illegal.
Well, I guess that's what the point I'm getting to. And actually, so the sign stealing is separate from this, but what I'm thinking of is there was no unfair advantage. Because if there was an
No.
unfair advantage, you wouldn't be able to sustain it. You wouldn't be able to hold it up. And the guys at the NFL would say, yeah, they only won because of the sign stealing. They only won because of contacting a recruit during a dead period. They only won because Harbaugh lied to investigators.
Yep.
And then they'd be saying, so we're not going to look at any of these players, and all these players would just be shafted basically and not be considered for anything. But they
No.
are being considered. They are being looked at because Michigan was a championship team.
And
Go ahead.
well, I was just going to say, would the players stick around if they thought the only reason they were having success was because of sign stealing? Like, and I mean that.
Well, I mean, at that point, they didn't have any options. I mean, that was mid-season, unless you're thinking they knew beforehand.
If they knew beforehand, if they knew, because apparently there are allegations going back to 2021. So
Okay.
Blake Corum, Blake Corum is a phenomenal running back, one of the best ever to wear the winged helmet. And let's pretend for a second that sign stealing is illegal. It's not, but let's do this. And Michigan, the only reason Michigan's any good is because they were stealing signs. Would Blake Corum risk his draft prospects for that? Would he come back for a fourth year, for his senior season, if he thought that Michigan was just going to get hammered for sign stealing allegations, and then every player on the team, their reputations are all hit because they were a part of the team that was only good because they were sign stealing? So now none of the players would look very good. And I can't see them making the business decision to stay at a program that's cheating to that level, if it were cheating, and risking their future NFL careers on that.
Yeah.
I would think anyway.
Right. And furthermore, like we said, Harbaugh himself, he hasn't escaped anything. He's still tied up in this. What has happened, there was an NFL coach. Oh, I should have looked this up. I think it was the guy from the Seahawks was sanctioned, and then his first year in the NFL, he was actually suspended for a couple of games. They were able to work that out.
Pete Carroll?
Yeah, Pete Carroll. I'm pretty sure he was the guy. So
All
that
right.
is a possibility. But now, okay, so going back to this slide, the things they're talking about right now, the meeting with recruits during a COOF dead period, that dead period, that COOF dead period was not a dead period under normal circumstances. Take that away, and it wasn't a dead period. That's that. The allegedly lying to and misleading investigators is because, from what I understand, and I guess I don't know, now I'm going to be a Harbaugh apologist, that was the whole cheeseburger thing, and Harbaugh didn't think he had done anything wrong. So when they said he did, he was like, no, I didn't. Actually, I think we've got Moose. Yeah, Moose here says Tennessee had over 200 recruiting violations. And what happened?
And nothing happened to them.
Nothing happened.
Yeah.
And I think this is what is so frustrating about this, is that they're trying to say Harbaugh and Michigan desecrated the sport. And what they did doesn't amount to anywhere near what these other teams have done.
Not only that, but like the allegations of the recruiting violations at Michigan, they're about like what, 3 players? They watched one player work out. He bought 2 other recruits a cheeseburger.
Mm-hmm.
Are 3 recruits really going to make that much of a difference? And I'm not saying that to be like, oh, it was cheating, but who cares? It was 3 guys, let it go. Like, first off, all he did was buy them cheeseburgers, relax. All he did was watch the one kid work out, but the kid had been struggling with a chronic illness, I think, and he wanted to show Harbaugh how far he had come along in his recovery. This is insane.
Yeah.
This is
I
crazy.
guess the one thing you have to bring into the conversation is, okay, go back to the 5 guys who were suspended from OSU when Tressel was there.
Yeah.
So what happened there was Tressel, I covered it up or didn't talk about it. And then what would have happened had Tressel self-reported, those guys would have been suspended. All right. So the fact that they weren't suspended, the fact that Tressel didn't report it and they weren't suspended means that Tressel was playing ineligible players. And it's when you cross that over to, oh, these players are ineligible, now all of a sudden it sounds a lot worse than it is. Because as we've said many times, what these guys did is now considered NIL, and it wasn't that big of a deal then either.
Yeah.
But it was the fact that it got covered up and then they became ineligible players because of it. And that's where things get out of hand.
Well, okay. I mean, the cover up is always worse than the crime. So even if you don't think what you're doing is wrong, just say something or else it's going to get worse for you.
Right.
But yeah, so at that point, the players did something technically against the rules back then that makes them ineligible. And then Ohio State tried to cover it up. The cover up sucks, but I guess I'm trying to wrap my head around what you said. So because they did something that was wrong or against the rules, that made the players ineligible, but then they went ahead and played the ineligible players anyway. But okay. Yep. And I'm saying this as a diehard Michigan fan. Those players never should have been ruled ineligible. That was a stupid rule.
Yeah.
And Tressel got kind of screwed because of that.
Yeah, he got shafted because of it.
Yeah.
Otis John Jr., who was our quote of the day there in a previous segment.
Oh, yeah.
Earlier in the show. So, Otis, if you didn't see that, go back and watch it. Tampering with players seems much more important than sign stealing. I would agree, because this goes back to the idea of getting ringers. So if you can get ringers on your team, that's a lot bigger of a deal than finding out potentially what a play call is going to be. The other thing I just remembered too is I believe it was James Franklin who said that they have essentially, what was it? 700 plays when you consider all of the variations. There's somewhere there's either 700 or that was like the base set. But at any rate, 700 plays. And if you get 50, 60 snaps in a game, means you're only using less than 10% of those plays. So somebody goes to a game, videos the sidelines, they're seeing less than 10% of your plays at best. And then you have 640 other plays to run. Where's the advantage? I don't get it. So I would agree that tampering with players is a much bigger deal.
Yeah, and if that's even what we think it is, I guess. I don't know. I guess my thing is that these rules are all so ambiguous that you never know from day to day what rules you're breaking and what you're not. Or if you're breaking a rule or not.
In the end, the Natty will stand and Michigan can be thanked for the implementation of headset comms and the beginning of the NCAA downfall. I think that's true.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Would really like the NCAA to fall apart and for Nick Saban to create a committee and oversee everything. We need Grandpa Saban to run college football.
We do.
Yes. Sam Hartman's looking downfield for Adrian.
Carter almost has a one-handed catch.
Almost.